All right, so we're here visiting with Mark Schwartz from ESPN, and welcome, Mark. It's been a long time since you've been in Portland.
Good to see you again.
So tell us what you're working on.
Well, we're here to kind of figure out what kind of decision you guys are facing on the 28th between these two first-round draft picks, Oden and Durant. I see that it's quite a debate going on in town, so I don't know if people are honking once or twice. What do you think?
I honked once, I'll admit to that. So give us a little preview of kind of who you've been talking to and sort of what angles you're pursuing.
Well, we spent some time with Kevin Pritchard and asked him about the difficulty of making that kind of decision. He seems to be like, hey, bring it on. I think he's probably made up his mind. He's telling us that it's still a difficult decision and he's got to meet them both. And, it's going to take all of his powers of perception and intuition. And they've still got to look at some of their simulation software, which is interesting, but it's tough to pass up the big guy unless you're really a visionary. Now, Kiki Vandeweghe told me that he has the guts to actually take Durant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I said, do you? And he goes, I don't know if guts would be the right word. And I think just the fact that you have two guys on either side of this, it's not like the LeBron draft or the Yao Ming draft. The fact that there is that just hint of indecision makes it, I think, from your standpoint, just a really interesting, month of being able to engage your fans and get them all going. And Nate McMillan was, pretty interesting on it too, because he can certainly see both sides. He's already conjured up all kinds of ways to use both of these guys. Almost sounds like Nate thinks he's going to have them both on the team. I'm trying to tell, no, you're only going to have one of them, Nate.
I don't know. Kevin's worked some pretty good magic. He might be able to pull it off. Actually, it's good for the league, I think, to have this sort of Oden versus Durant thing. We haven't had sort of a 1-2 matchup or a battle like that for a while.
Yeah, I told him the last one I can remember was actually in the NFL where Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf were going at it. And of course, if you pick Ryan Leaf, then you have to deal with that for I don't know how long. But then again, San Diego was able to bounce back from that and almost get to the Super Bowl. But notice that Peyton Manning got there first.
Yeah, you've been around this team before, covered them during the playoffs and whatnot, and obviously covered the NBA extensively. How do you sort of see the Trailblazers changing now?
As far as the on the court?
Yeah, on the court or off the court, just the overall sort of national perception of the team.
Well, I think, 4 or 5 years ago when I came here and it was the Jailblazers, I think the national perception could not have been worse. Because at times it seemed as if there was almost a blatant disregard for who the team would put on the court. And I think you can do that in a town like this. There's a few markets in the NBA, Salt Lake being another one, where they're too small and they have too much civic pride and they identify too closely with the team because they don't have 4 professional teams. It's not like New York where if the Knicks get a bunch of guys like that and they just focus on the Giants and the Yankees. So I think they really did some damage and it's going to take some time to get over it. Now, when you pick Brandon Roy and he turns out to be the Rookie of the Year and you don't even use the number 1 pick overall to get him, and then you get Aldridge in the same draft and he turns out to be a really up-and-coming 4, then I think right away the building blocks are in place. And even though the team won 32 games last year, I think there was some excitement about the kind of team and the kind of players they were putting out on the floor. Now this thing with Oden and Durant just kind of puts it over the top. And, one of the things that's it would drive me crazy if I lived here is this whole idea that, Portland shouldn't have the number 1 pick. It's just not right. The NBA needs the number 1 pick to be in the East. And, what's the point of even having professional sports if certain teams are allowed to have certain things that other teams just can't have because they're too far away?
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff really bothers me, especially when it comes from people in my business. And that's, basically who it's come from. But it's interesting, when I talk to Kevin and Nate and the people here, they don't say, well, that's just ridiculous. They say, yeah, well, I can understand people saying that, but, which is interesting. They don't seem to be as outraged by it as I would think they would be.
I was a little outraged by it when I heard it, so I was just like, that seems to be sort of crazy talk. But okay, well, I'll let you get going. When will the piece run?
Well, the draft's the 28th, Thursday.
Yeah.
I would imagine it would be on in the couple days before that on Outside the Lines, which is 12:30 afternoon Pacific time.
Cool.
Hopefully, maybe even on a Sunday before the draft, which would be real early, like 6:30 in the morning Pacific time.
And hopefully, maybe we'll see you out here for the playoffs at some point next year.
Yes, yes. That would
good.
be a big leap too.
Yes.
You have to win another 11 more games than you did the year before.
I guess I should ask you, who would you take?
Oh, out of Oden and Durant?
Yeah.
Well, that's a great question. You know, I've never met Oden, and I have met Durant, and I really do like Durant's game, and I like him personally. I know that typically these big guys don't come around very often at all, and I think it would be hard to pass up Oden because it doesn't appear like he's going to be anything other than a Hakeem Olajuwon, maybe without some of the footwork type of guy. I think Durant would be probably a lot more fun, at least at first, to see that guy just filling it up, So it's sort of like a guilty pleasure, like, well, what would you rather have, a steak or this ice cream sundae that's so delicious? What would you rather have? Most people would say, well, a great ice cream sundae? I'll have that and I'll try to get another steak somewhere else. But I think you probably take the steak. I think that's what they'll do.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Mark. Mark Schwartz from ESPN. Thank you.
Thank you.